Hey everybody, and welcome back to Sweatpants BI. This is part 10, the final part of our full-length HR report walkthrough in Power BI. And in this video, we're just going to quickly run back through the report and just do some finishing touches. And finishing touches for a Power BI report are really just us kind of going back and double checking a lot of the design and data visualization choices that we made along the way. Just because something felt right to us at the time that we built it doesn't mean that it's still going to feel right to us right before we publish, because now we're looking at the whole product instead of just bits and pieces that we're kind of building along the way. So just very quickly, we're going to jump back into the report and we're just going to go through each page super fast and make sure that we still agree with all the decisions that we made before we actually publish to the Power BI service. So the first place that we're going to start with our finishing touches is our cover page, which to our users is going to be the first page or landing page when they enter the report. So we want to make sure that this is really serving our need. We want to make sure that everything immediately makes a good impression right out of the gate. And the first thing that I'm noticing now that I'm taking a fresh look at this is the presence of the word page in this first button here. You can see that this says Headcount page, but the other pages don't say retention page or turnover page. So this word page here seems kind of unnecessary now in hindsight. So I'm just going to quickly go into my style settings and let's just remove the word page from our sort of label here on this first button. And one thing that I'm also noticing here is, once again, I kind of struggled with the colors, this white and blue transition here. So very quickly, I'm just going to go and select all three buttons here. And I'm going to experiment again with just moving this text to the very bottom of the buttons and just take a fresh look at how this is going to work here. So let's go ahead and move all of this down to the bottom here. And now, honestly, I think I'm preferring the headcount, retention, turnover labels being at the bottom and just having the text always be white, regardless of whether or not the user is engaging with the button or not. I think this is a slightly cleaner presentation overall. One additional accent that I'm deciding right now that maybe I want to see what this looks like is, let's experiment with adding a border just to see how this looks. So right now we're on hover settings, and I kind of want to see if I can put an orange border around my buttons that kind of matches the overall, orange aesthetic of my report. So I'm going to go with this 3-pixel sort of highlight accent color here, and on default, let's see if I can get this accent color down to 0 so that it's invisible. And I'm going to have to go back now and readjust my hover border back to 3. And there we go. That's kind of what I was going for. The last thing that I want to do on this hover page real quickly is, even though I've got my super slick navigation buttons here, let's go ahead and fix the tooltip that appears when I hover over these buttons. You can see it says Control plus click here to follow link. That's not particularly engaging or insightful. So let's just go ahead and add a manual text tooltip. And for this first button, let's say click here to view a page of insights related to employee headcount. And now there's just something a little bit more descriptive to this when the user hovers on this button, and it gives them a little bit more instruction on what to do. And instead of complicating things, let's just copy this tooltip and do basically the same thing for our other buttons, except this one won't be employee headcount. It's going to be retention, and our last one is going to be employee turnover. I like to remove as much mystery as I can for my users. Never underestimate the ability of your users to not actually hover or engage or interact with your Power BI report, because so many of your users, if they're not frequent Power BI users, or if they've never used a BI tool before, they may just not intuitively be aware that they can engage with a Power BI report this way. Even though we can build buttons and program in these cool navigation and bookmark and other features by utilizing actions on images, shapes, buttons, things like that, these are not things that are obvious to your users. So try to make things as foolproof as you can. If you build a lot of reports for people, who are just doing various roles around your company and who are not BI developers. So let's even add some additional text here. Use the buttons below to navigate between the different employee views in this tool. Nothing too complicated, but just a little note to get, the viewer's attention that, hey, by the way, in case it wasn't obvious, you can use these cool, images down here to navigate the different views in the tool instead of just sitting there, staring at it, not knowing what to do. And, probably going down here eventually and using these sort of tab inputs as the actual navigation button. So we're just telling people right out of the gate, hey, you can use these buttons to navigate the tool. And that's pretty much everything that I had planned to do for the cover page. On my headcount page, one of the things that stands out to me that this view does not have is any way of sort of helping the user understand how headcount has evolved since this company's inception. So right now we're currently looking at the time frame 2013 through 2019, and we can see that as of 2019 there are 2,796 employees. But there's nothing to really contextualize that. Is this number a huge increase from 2013? Is headcount actually down from 2013? There's no real way of knowing this just right out of the box. So what I'm going to do here very quickly is I'm going to add a new bar chart to this page, and it's not going to stay here, but we're going to build it here. And let's go ahead and just add headcount to our y-axis, and I'm going to add year to my x-axis so that we can literally visualize this growth in headcount over time. And I'm going to go ahead and drop down my columns here. And for now, I'm just going to make everything gray. And let's go ahead and add data labels. I'm going to use DIN as my font size, and I'm going to bump it up just a little bit there. I'm going to go to my advanced options, and I'm going to turn off responsive. Now let's go over to our y-axis settings and turn off the title there. We're going to turn off the title on our x-axis. Next, let's go to our grid lines, and I'm noticing that I have vertical grid lines that I don't really need. In fact, I would honestly argue that the grid lines as a whole aren't very necessary. And since I'm labeling these bars, we can probably even get rid of the y-axis entirely just to kind of keep this chart super simple. On our x-axis now, because I have some years here that aren't labeled, because my years are running on a continuous x-axis, let's go ahead and make those categorical so that every single year shows up. Now I'm going to go up to my options here. I'm going to specify that I want to sort my axis by year, not head count. And now we're going to sort our axis in ascending order so that my years now run 2013 through 2019. The last thing that I'm going to do is let's go ahead and add a new measure here. And it looks like I have a measure here that I'm not even using yet, so I'll just use that one. And we will call this bar chart conditional formatting. And the logic for this is going to look something like this. We're going to use the switch function, and we're going to specify that we want something to happen when the following criteria is true. So if selected year, or selected value rather, for year equals the minimum year for everything that we have currently selected or filtered in our date table, then I'm going to want to use one color. If my selected year is equal to the maximum year, then we want to use a specific color. And if not, then we want to use a different color. And all this is doing is I'm basically creating a function, or a measure here rather, that is going to say, if the minimum year is equal to 2013, then I want to use a specific color. If it's equal to the maximum year, which is 2019, I want to use a specific color. And if not, then for all other values, use this other color. So now we have to go and get our colors, because I forget honestly which colors I'm currently using. So we're not going to do anything with our conditional formatting measure yet. Let's just go ahead and head down here to our columns. I need to grab my gray color, which is this B3, B3, B3. And I want to use gray for all of these bars that are not 2013 or 2019. So let's go back to our measure here. And this color is going to go here. Now I need to grab my orange color, which is going to be this FAA93A. And I'm going to add that to my minimum and maximum year bar, which is going to be 2013 and 2019. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And instead of using a hard-coded color, I'm going to use conditional formatting. And I'm going to use my field value, which is my conditional formatting measure here. And this is going to make sure that the first year and the last year are always the ones that are highlighted. And the reason that I like to do this is that it's just easier to immediately make that comparison between 2013 and 2019. We probably could have also used something like a slope chart to really show that growth, but in this specific instance, I honestly wanted to show even the years in between, so 2014 through 2018. Once we have that, let's go ahead and format our data labels to show everything. And I'm going to use overflow text for my data labels in case my bars get too small to show these 4-digit numbers. And then I'm going to head back to my columns here. And I'm going to increase my spacing between these bars. Let's try 40. That looks good. And now let's go ahead and give this a more intuitive title, like how has headcount changed over time for the years selected. Or you could even say period selected. And I'm going to make this thing large enough that my title here doesn't get cut off at all. Now that we have this, let's go ahead and cut it and paste it to this page. And what we're going to do on this page is we're going to format it as a tooltip. And I'm going to call this Headcount Tooltip. And now let's go ahead and change the formatting of this page, because obviously we don't need a whole, canvas size layout for just this fairly small tooltip. So let's try 400 by 700. Then I can kind of, increase it to fit the space here. And now we can, either go with it the way that we have it here. Let's go ahead and test this out. I'm going to go ahead and add my headcount tooltip so that somebody can hover over this 2,796 and see, how headcount has evolved between 2013 and 2019, or 2014 and 2019. And you can notice that my colors are now updated for 2014 and 2019 on that chart. Or if we want to, and first I'm just going to hide this tooltip page, which I think is just a best practice. Or if we want to change the formatting here so that it aligns with our tooltip here, just very, very quickly, let's go ahead and change our background to be dark. I think I used the same color. And then let's go ahead and quickly change our formatting on our bar chart here. Let's go ahead and grab our title. We want it to be white so that it stands out. Let's go to our data labels. We also want those values to be white so that they're readable. We want our x-axis to be white so that we can read those values. And maybe we're thinking here that we'd like to grab, kind of a dark gray here. So let's just go ahead super quickly, and I'm just going to add, you can just grab a rectangle or something, and I'm trying to find a dark gray to replace the gray that I'm using in this bar chart. So let's go ahead and change our style here and look for a gray that we can still clearly see. It looks like this gray will work. So I'm going to grab this 33333. That might have been too many threes. And let's go ahead and update our conditional formatting to that. And now let's see how this looks. We can still clearly see the bars in between, but we've really got even additional emphasis now on 2014 and 2019. So I'm just going to leave it like this. Actually, one more thing that I can do here is, again, if you're ever using tooltips or anything on a card, you want to make sure that you let the user know that that feature is there, or else it's really easy for people to just kind of, scroll around and never actually trigger this tooltip, especially because if they just hover over here in the blank area of the card, notice that nothing is triggered. They actually have to be hovering over the measure value, which is head count, in order to really trigger that tooltip. So let's just go ahead and go back to our general settings real quickly, and let's go ahead and add a subtitle to this card, just letting people know hover to view change in head count over time. And I'm going to go ahead and make this, you can make it white. I'm definitely going to use a smaller font though. And because my comma is getting kind of cut off and this now looks like 2.796 instead of 2,796, let's go ahead and just make the font a little bit smaller for maximum readability. And now it at least tells people that they can hover over this to see head count, change in head count over time. And if you even want to experiment with making the subtitle pop out even more, you can just utilize contrast by going with something like this dark black to make it even more noticeable. On the retention page, there aren't a lot of updates that I think I really want to make here, but I'm all for symmetry. So here on our headcount page, notice that we have our departments first and then our job level visual. In other words, it kind of directs users to start here and then you can see headcount by job level. But on retention, notice that I accidentally flipped those. So the only real change that I'm going to make on my retention page is I'm just going to flip the order of those visuals so that it aligns with what we have on the previous page. And then you can see I have retention by department, and then I have retention by job level. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is on this, I'm going to capitalize department. And instead of saying retention by job level here, I'm just going to let people know that it's the same measure, but now being visualized by job level. It's just a little bit cleaner. On my turnover page, there are still not a whole lot of changes that I'm going to make here, but you can see that job level and department are in the wrong order again. So I'm just going to quickly change those. They're already capitalized and formatted correctly. One other thing that I'm noticing here is it looks like my table is not being properly filtered. I have my term count, but I have also people here that have been terminated who don't fall into this time frame. So my measure is correct, but my table does not appear to be filtered. So let's go over to our filter pane and let's grab our term count, and we want to specify, or we want to keep a filter on here that our term count cannot be blank, which is going to filter our table to the specific employees who were terminated or who left the company within the time frame for which we filtered. So easy fix to make there. If I have a specific filter that needs to be on a visual at all times in order for that visual to function correctly, I like to lock and hide that filter so that no one can tamper with it. Now the only thing that I'm kind of looking at and thinking is, okay, I have this salary information here, but it's kind of hard to quickly sort of digest this information as someone scrolls through it. So what I'm going to do here is let's go ahead and add a specific column formatting to total salary, and let's go ahead and give it a pop of color here. And I'm going to add this to my header, and then I'm going to go to my cell elements, and I'm going to select the total salary series, and let's add some conditional formatting here just to help us quickly understand, who may have left the company who had, disproportionately higher salaries here. And so you can see as I scroll through, it's a lot easier to see the largest salaries. Now this white font that I have here, of course, is a little bit more difficult to read with this configuration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on conditional formatting for my colors as well. But I'm actually just going to pick the same color for my lowest values and highest values and everything in between so that I have the same color now for all conditional formatting values. And there we go. So, I mean, like, honestly, you know, sometimes my process for finishing touches lasts days, if not, you know, the better part of a week or two, just to make sure that everything is perfect. We could continue to drag this out for this video, but honestly, I think the report's in pretty decent shape, and we've already, you know, dedicated 10 videos to this specific HR report. So we're just going to go ahead and call this a day. You know, I think our report's in pretty good shape. I think that this thing is ready to publish. So let's just go ahead and go up here to our Publish button. And of course, we're going to want to save all of our changes. And once we're satisfied with everything, we're going to go ahead and publish this to the Power BI online service. And since I'm using a free tier Power BI, I can only publish things to my workspace, but that's fine. Let's go ahead and publish our new HR report to our Power BI service account. And once we are published, you can see that our Power BI report is now here in the Power BI online service in my personal workspace. Let's go ahead and just make this full screen. And you can see my buttons activate just fine when I'm flipping through. Let's go ahead and just click on our Headcount button. And once everything loads here, you know, now we have our Power BI report and our HR Headcount tool online for our users to sort of click through and explore everything, you know, at their own pace and sort of consume all of the insights that we have to offer in our tool. Thank you so much to all of you who have checked out this 10-part full-length Power BI report walkthrough. I know that this was a long one, but I tried to demonstrate all kinds of different design, data visualization, and interactivity approaches that you can take in your Power BI reports. If these long format Power BI tutorials really resonate with you as someone who is learning Power BI, just learning design, or maybe looking to improve their data visualization acumen, let me know in the YouTube comments on these videos, or just hit me up on LinkedIn and drop me a message where I'm honestly a lot easier to communicate with. And of course, if my content here on Sweatpants BI has really helped you along the way, feel free to like or subscribe. No obligation, but it does really help me out in terms of sort of, you know, knowing whether or not I'm making an impact with my learners. But regardless of what you do, thank you so much for giving this content a chance. Good luck to you in your Power BI and data visualization journey, and hopefully I'll see you next time on Sweatpants BI. Thank you so much.